I'm pleased to have with me Jeb Bush, the former governor of Florida, and the person who saw tremendous gains in student achievement while he was governor of that state. And one of the things he did in that state was introduce a lot of school choice, whether it was school vouchers or digital learning opportunities or income tax credits that gave scholarships to low-income students or charter schools. And of all the innovations that have occurred, the one that is really spreading most widely in the United States today are charter schools. So I thought I would ask the governor a few questions. What do you think of charter schools, Governor?
Well, I think they're charter schools for those taking this course are simply independent public schools. They have to take all comers, but they're public schools. They just have a governance structure that is school-based. In fact, you know, in the day, not that long ago, people always talked about neighborhood schools and local schools being the driver of a successful education system. Somehow we've lost touch with that. But that's what charter schools are. They're run by typically passionate, dedicated leaders. And if they don't work, you know, there should be some, and typically in most states there's a process to close them down. Now, my personal experience about charter schools didn't start as governor. I set up the first charter school with T. Willard Fair, who's the longest serving director of the Urban League chapter, of any Urban League chapter. And we built the Liberty City Charter School in 1997.
Oh, where is that?
In Miami.
In Miami.
And it was the first school. There were 4 schools that were created. We had 90 kids. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. There was real resistance by the school board. We were forced to accept our contract in effect. And you would have thought we were like the greatest threat to the 4th largest school district in the country, these 90 children being taught in uniform where parents signed a contract that said that they would volunteer in the school.
Well, you were a cloud on a distant sky. The sky was blue, but there was that little cloud out there. You never knew how big it could grow.
So over time, we changed the law to make it easier for charter schools to be set up. Many states, effective states that have this, have a statewide authorization of charter schools. We don't. That was ruled unconstitutional in our state. We tried that. But now, fast forward, you know, from 1997, we now have 260,000 charter school students. Many high-performing schools, some that aren't as high performing. And the beauty of charter schools is if it doesn't work, there's an obligation, I think, a duty to close them down. They do this against all odds because they typically don't get the same capital requirements, and many times you can't share the space with the traditional public schools. But I think it's a good thing because in a perfect system, the innovation that takes place in any school ought to be applied in other schools. The beauty of charter schools is they can innovate and try different things. Unfortunately, the traditional schools don't embrace those changes the way you would expect, and they feel threatened by high-performing charter schools.
Well, there are around the country some really high-performing charter schools, whether it's in New York or Boston, Washington, D.C., New Orleans, Los Angeles. So why is it that there's so much opposition to these high-performing charter schools?
Well, I don't think this is a conjecture on my part. Monopolies are different than open systems. Monopolies protect the status quo, and government-run monopolies protect it even more because they have more power. And politicized, unionized government-run monopolies, there are 13,000 of them in the country, resist change.
Well, why doesn't the public vote in a school board that embraces the change?
Some places they do. And in some places you have very progressive superintendents. But that is not the norm because the system itself resists change. And that's why charters, they flourished, but it requires political leadership and vigilance to make sure that they're allowed to participate and grow. Ultimately, scale matters. So if you have success academies and other charter management organizations in New York State and City, for example, that have lights-out test results, irrefutable gains amongst low-income kids, taking kids that are lagging way behind and bringing them up to averages that are as good as any school in the entire state. That's what sustains these schools. When you create a scale of parents that demand the quality school, and you create a constituency around it. But in politics, a lot of times the adults are the ones that the special interests care about. And the adults in this system are the largest employers in almost every county in the United States. And so they wield big power. But if you can get a constituency of moms and dads that believe in these schools, and they do, then they can they can be the counterweight to union leadership that has disproportionate power politically.
You know, some of the leading civil rights organizations have expressed opposition to charter schools,
Yeah.
saying they should not be expanded. And
The
and
NAACP has done
and yet, you know, charter schools are serving the black community more than any other community. So I'm always curious about why that might be the case.
Well, it shouldn't be the case. Rising student achievement is the civil rights issue of our time. And you would think a venerable organization like the NAACP would be on the side of children and the families that want to get out of failing schools and win the lottery. You know, this is they win. They're not, charter schools don't pick who they want to. They're not creaming off the top. They're providing an alternative that parents desperately want. And you would think an organization with an incredible history like the NAACP would be on their side, but they're not. And they're not for reasons I don't quite understand.
So despite opposition, especially from the teacher union, it is the case that we now are 6% of our students are attending charter schools around the country, and it continues to grow every year. Do you see a day when we're going to have a charter school educational system?
I hope so. I think there will be a point in time, and in some places like New Orleans, we've already reached this, Washington, D.C., it's been reached, where the scale basically means that you're not turning back, that there'll be a melding of interests, that public education will be defined by educating students, and there will be choices for parents, both public and private and hybrids, both using online learning and competency-based learning and course choice. They're going to basically get a menu of services, and they can choose from it to meet the best, the means by which their child can learn. That's where we're moving. There's deep resistance to it, but we would get far faster, far further if we move to that basis. Every successful enterprise empowers people to make choices. That's called progress. And when there's a tension and when there's a choice, there's competition, there's innovation, there's continuous improvement. It's just, it's a fact. It's not conjecture on my part in that particular case. And education would benefit from this.
So I know you have a foundation, the Foundation for Educational Excellence. Is your foundation supporting the expansion of charter schools? Is that one of your goals?
Sure. We support the whole array of school choice, including charter schools, which is the largest option. And we support accountability as well. I think the combination of higher expectations, rewarding progress and rewarding excellence directly to the school, combined with empowering parents to make decisions with quality teachers at the lead, will yield a better result. Florida has done this, and we've gone from the bottom to having some of the greatest learning gains of any state.
So you would have charter schools, but you'd hold them accountable. Students have to take these tests. They have to show that they're doing well on these tests. If they don't do well, then you close them.
Yeah, look, the idea, this is not to hurt traditional public schools. This is to give parents choices so that quality improves across the board. And if a traditional public school is not working, that should be closed down if it's a chronic failure. And if a charter school misappropriates money or has lousy outcomes for students, why would we want to keep it open? Of course not. Everything needs to be focused on one basic point, which is a child is deserving of a year's worth of knowledge in a year's time. And it should happen for 12 years. And a child should graduate from high school with a piece of paper that actually has value, which means that they are college ready and or career ready. And in all honesty, Paul, based on your research and others people's research that I admire and respect, effectively a third of our kids are college and or career ready. We better start trying a lot of things to be able to improve that.
Well, that is a disconcerting fact you just reported, but nonetheless, you've given us hope that the charter school innovation will help turn that around. Thank you very much
Yeah.
I've been speaking with Governor Jeb Bush, governor of Florida, in the period when the state of Florida was making the fastest progress in American education.